Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Aaron Brown Thomas and Kelly Vroman. And we're getting ready for the Cleveland International Film Festival. So tell us about Rekindled.
Well, this is Aaron, the director speaking right now. Rekindled is, it's really like my baby and Kelly's baby at the same time. I mean, this is the first time I felt like I had a partner that was like completely in it the entire way through. I mean, I've always enjoyed working with other writers, and even my husband wrote the last narrative film that I brought to Cleveland. But the difference is that Kelly, who wrote the film, also acts in it. Mm-hmm. And so she was not just involved in coming up with the story, but also there, obviously, during the filming. And she was like a confidant of mine and gave me great notes during editing. And
oh my gosh, do we call it notes, or do we just call it you and I sitting there agonizing over what frames to cut?
No, that's definitely more accurate. But what I wanted to say is, really, the whole thing started with our desire to work together. We knew we wanted to do something together, and I had read this article that Kelly had written for the Huffington Post that dealt with really important stuff about respect in relationships, but the voice was still really comedic, and it made you laugh even though it made you thought. And I said, like, this is the thing, this is what I want to tackle. This is something I want to make a film about. And so we got together and started brainstorming ideas, and we came up with this idea of, the first core of the idea was sort of a magical scenario where a woman in her 30s gets to re-experience a high school relationship, but through the eyes, like through her adult eyes. And over time, it developed into what Rekindled is. And maybe, Kelly, you can go into a little bit more detail about our premise.
Yeah, sure. As Aaron said, this woman in her 30s has her life together, just succeeding in business and in friendships and in finances. And the thing is that she cannot have a successful relationship because she's still obsessed with the idea of her first love, that first all-consuming love, when you can't imagine life without that person. And so she buys this magical Groupon to rekindle a past relationship for 40% off. And when she shows up to the date, he is still 16, hence the reason it was 40% off. And now she has to sit with him at this date and gets to see the relationship for what it was. Basically, we're working to debunk the romanticism behind all-consuming love, that you can't be consumed by a relationship entirely unless there's a degree of manipulation and unhealth present. But we do it in a funny way.
That's what's so talenting. There's a word I just made up. You are so
what was that word?
Talenting, because you are so talented and challenging. You are able to do that. But to be able to, I think what you're talking about is the reason that a lot of relationships are in danger these days, because of people going back onto Facebook and kind of rekindling some of the old high school, that whatever they had built up in their mind, we're reading over and over about how that can be dangerous to marriages even. And what an interesting concept for you to go ahead and kind of explore that. But the fact that he's still a 16-year-old and awkward, and getting to see more of an eye-opening kind of experience with him. But Callie, why is it that comedy comes out of very serious things? Because that Huffington Post article was very serious and very sad in a lot of ways, although you always have a lighthearted tone because that's who you are. But why do you think, why is it that we're able to derive something funny and laugh and it's able to come from pain?
Oh, I wonder if there's like a scientific explanation to it, because, if there's like certain parts of the brain that are just close together, and like, I don't know. But I think for myself as a comedian, you hear people say, well, I laugh or else I'd cry.
Yeah.
And I do think there's something to that, of like, sometimes things get so low. Over the Rhine is one of my favorite bands. They're an Ohio band, and they also went to Malone way back in the day. But they have the lyrics of one song that says, I'm so far down, I'm beginning to breathe. Sometimes getting to that point that's so low, or like recognizing something that's so broken in this world, just so tainted by the fallenness, that once you get to that point and you really see that, the only place you have is to look up to see the surface of the pool where those sparkling waters are that you want to swim up toward. And I think that's what comedy does. You get to that point and you just go, I can't believe this is happening. Let's talk about it. Let's have some fun here. Because our other option is really sad and really hard. And I think that's a bit of seeing the kingdom too. I think that's a beautiful blessing that God gives us as people, is in the darkness. I think humor is such a wonderful gift. I mean, now I also think it's totally okay to sit there and to not be able to laugh, to have no, I mean, I've been to that place with some deaths of some family members that you can't see the happiness. You can't. And you sit there in the sadness, and God shows love by having people come and sit in the sadness with you. And I think that's a beautiful gift too. But definitely for me, part of the healing process is kind of figuring out what's funny here, calling out the super sadness of it, and then cracking some jokes.
I got to see a very rough edit of it and was laughing out loud, right, Erin?
Yes.
And
yay!
How was it being friends? How was it, Erin, directing your friend? Kelly, how was it taking direction from your friend for something that you had written? You kind of co-developed, but how'd that work?
Erin, you start.
Yeah, for me, it was like the easiest time I've ever had directing anybody. And I think so much of that comes from the fact that Kelly and I always communicate our expectations really well with each other. We both set a really high bar for where we want things to be. So if I asked her to do another one, I know that I'm not pushing her beyond where she wants to be pushed. I don't feel like when I ask her, hey, can you come an hour earlier so we can work, that I'm putting her out. I feel like she's so excited that I told her this is what we need and we're going to get it. So there was just that sense of trust between us that we both knew that the other person was capable of the end product that we really wanted. We were going to get there, and we were going to do whatever we needed to get there. And then beyond that, we also, because we co-developed the script. Kelly was the writer, but I gave her my thoughts on every draft, and the concept came out of a meeting that the two of us, by meeting, just a fun little breakfast, a fun little breakfast that we had together. That's where the whole idea was birthed. So we knew the tone we wanted to strike. We knew the story we wanted to tell. We knew what was supposed to be funny, what was supposed to be serious. So there was such a united vision on that. And, I think that that's the most important thing in casting is, the first most important thing is trust. And then the next most important thing is the ability to communicate and have the same vision. But if you don't have the same vision and they trust you and they're willing to go there, that's great too. But I had both with Kelly. So for me, it was just really, really wonderful. And the other nice thing is, she felt if I was, let's say I'm over-explaining something, but she had a gut instinct and wanted to go for it, she could just say, you know what, can I just try something real quick? And I had trust in her. And she'd do that, and her instincts would be spot on. So it's just one of those things where there was not any egos between us. We were both, so excited about the end product being where it needed to be. We both trusted that we both had what we needed in terms of talent and ideas in order to get there.
The movie is called Rekindled, and you're going to have 5 showings at the Cleveland International Film Festival this week?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot.
When can we see it?
Kelly, do you know, or do you want me to take this one?
Oh, gosh. Okay. Do you have them right there, Erin?
Well, I can tell you we play April 1st, April 2nd, April 3rd, April 6th, and April 8th. And April 1st is at night. It's 9-something p.m. comedy block. April 2nd is Sunday late afternoon. It is the Ohio Shorts Program 6. The 3rd, which is Monday, is 11-something in the morning, and it is also the Block 6, if you're looking on the website.
Mm-hmm.
Then on the 6th, which is a Thursday, we play at 9-something at night again. It's the Ohio block, meaning we will play films with people who live in Ohio or like us who lived in Ohio before they moved elsewhere. And then on the next Saturday, the 8th, we're going to play in the evening again, late evening, 9-something, in comedy shorts again. So this information is all on Cleveland International Film Festival's website. You can just go on their website and do a search for the film Rekindled. You'll get all that information. If you love comedies and you want to see the comedy shorts block, I definitely recommend getting tickets ahead of time because those particular blocks of films could sell out.
What would you rate this film for families who might want to come?
Sure, that's a good question.
PG-13. Don't bring children. Because there is some sensitive subject matter. Erin and I talked a lot about that. One thing that I wanted to add to the what is it like to have worked together thing, it's such a joy to work with somebody who you know is fully committed to make the absolute best possible product. And that's what Erin and I definitely shared with that. And part of that went into what is necessary to tell this story. And because some of it is so caught up in getting physically involved in a relationship at a young age and, having to process through that as well, we knew we needed to at least hint to that and to show the damage that can be carried on. So there is, it's all very tasteful. There's no nudity, but, there is some sensitive subject matter that we thought was really necessary to the storytelling. It's essential. We agonized over it, didn't we, Erin?
Yeah. We really, at the end of the day, we felt it was necessary
to tell the story.
To show darkness for light to show in contrast, and that's always something I noticed in the stories that I gravitate to telling. It's and this is something I was actually thinking of earlier, and I'll bring up. But one of the things that God's been teaching me over the last year, and it took living in LA to do it, is that having empathy is not the same thing as endorsing, and the lack of judgment isn't the same as endorsing. I think that's something I'm learning through. Kelly and I are just to detour here for 1 second. Kelly and I are co-writing a feature together right now that takes place in an exotic dance club, and God is in it. God is all over this thing. And this is the particular feature that we're writing. We really explore the idea of how shame is contagious in female relationships and how it can destroy female relationships. And we've been doing a ton of research and just developing such an empathy for people who work in these clubs. And I feel like 5 years ago and certainly 10 years ago, I couldn't have written this feature. I feel like I would have been afraid to write it. I feel like I would have been afraid to go close to that subject matter or close to people who live that life. And I think that's just a lesson of what God's been teaching me. And it's a tough lesson. It's like a lesson that I'm learning every single day.
Because we all need a Redeemer. We all need a Savior. And to be able to go to the places that Jesus went and let them know He loves you. And there is a Redeemer. There is a Savior. Yeah. Well, we want to come see Rekindled at the Cleveland International Film Festival. Erin Brown Thomas, Kelly Vroman. Give us that website again real quick for people to get information.
Sure, rekindledfilm.com. You can also go to Facebook /Rekindled Movie. You can follow us on both Twitter and Instagram at Rekindled Film. And I think we're going to update the website to have that Huffington Post article, too. So if you're interested in the article that Kelly wrote, that'll be on our website as well.
Thank you both so much for joining us in our community.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
It was a blast.